Howdy and welcome to Daily Miles. Do me a solid before we get started. Smash that like button down below. Definitely helps out the channel. And while you're down there, hit the subscribe button for more content. And if you're feeling generous, find the Patreon link down below, click it, and subscribe for $1 a month for 30 days of video. Let's get into today's episode. So it appears as though I have sold one of my iPads. So the sales, the participant in question lives in Santa Barbara. So I'm going to drive up to Santa Barbara in a little while, and that's probably what you're seeing right now, assuming that I've done the edit properly. I'm going to hook up with them and make the sale and walk away with some pennies, which I desperately need at this point. Eek. Alrighty. On today's agenda, on the other hand, while that's happening, I have a tiny little quandary. So I shot a video a while back of a story that you've already seen by now. And it's called The Joy Story. Now, it's a double entendre, but in the video, I don't actually explain what the other side of the double entendre is. But that's not the point of this tiny little quandary. That is a story of not love, but like. Truth be told, there are actually 3 versions of that story. The first version of that story is the reason why I'm telling you this. The first version of that story actually happened on the very first day that I started my van travels, and then the van exploded and that happened. But I ended up shooting all of it and then putting it online for my patrons to see. So the patrons have actually seen this. The problem with it was that there was so much background noise that you couldn't actually hear the story, so I took it offline. So when I finally got to a quiet place, and that turned out to be North Carolina, I shot a much better version of it. I actually shot 2 versions of that story. The first version of that story will never see the light of day, thank God. I should say this first and the second version of that story, let's try that again. The second version of that story will never see the light of day. The third version of that story actually has a cute little, it's not cute, and it's definitely not little. It scared the living crap out of me. This piece did not end up in the edit, and rightfully so, because the last thing you want to do is, right in the middle of the story, you want to hear, ah! So here's what happened. I was shooting and I'm walking along and I'm shooting B-roll. You don't see, because I removed it from the edit, what you see is me dropping the camera downwards, and in the moment I went, there's a piece of brown things moving, and I went, oh my God, that's a copperhead. And I dropped the camera, and actually the copperhead strikes the camera, and I went in the opposite direction. I ran in the opposite direction from that copperhead. However, that was not the only instance of a copperhead in that shoot. Right as I'm shooting the end sequence of that video, and again, you don't see it because I was talking very quickly, although you might see me picking up the pace, because what I saw coming, down the pathway was another copperhead. The story is not about romance, even though it has a romantic element to it. There's sex in the story, but it's not about the sex. It's actually about me going to jail. The reason why I bring this up is because there are a few of these stories where there's a strong female protagonist in the story that changes the course of the story. And I'm a little concerned that if I start telling you these stories from my life, then it may seem as though I'm just, bragging about my sexual prowess or my romantic interludes, when in fact it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the fact that these things taught me things. And the reason I'm pointing this stuff out to you is because there are more than a few stories that I have essentially been, I'm not telling anybody that stuff because of that fact. And yet these women changed my life. There's a whole swath of them, actually, that changed the course of my life. And the reason the reason that I'm pointing this stuff out to you is that I used to have this mindset of constantly, it was just, I cannot, it was exhausting. I look back on that now and I'm thinking, how did I peacefully coexist with the rest of the universe? when my every waking moment was how? And now I don't have that anymore. It's much quieter in here. Now I have space and room to focus. I'm like, how did I focus on anything but that and still get my job done? Truth be told, while I was being the consummate professional, none of that stuff entered my mind. But outside of the classroom, how did this happen? I haven't the foggiest clue. Have not got the foggiest clue. I should be clear with the trolls and the haters. I'm not asking for your feedback, because if you troll me and you hate me, then you're going to get snipped. It's that simple. However, if anybody else is watching this, I have a question for you. And the question is, do you mind if I tell a few of these stories? All right, that's one. Two, I have a lot of tango stories to tell. And I'm thinking, some of the tango folks would love to hear this stuff. You folks, on the other hand, will probably get really bored of it in 10 seconds. But I have a lot of tango stories to tell. After, 15 years of being in the tango world and teaching for the better portion of 13 of those years, you pick up a few things. So I'm thinking, another bend in my tango stories, or another bend in my stories program would be a few tango stories. So if you're interested in that, in hearing that stuff, I'm going to tell a few tango stories. It'll be a sporadic, when the moment strikes. But I think I find that stuff entertaining. Now I find it entertaining. When it was happening, it was like, yeah, not so much with that one. I think it's entertaining. So the next story that you hear is actually going to be a tango story of what it was like being in Buenos Aires. And one of the things that actually happens when you're dancing at a higher level is this experience that I had.
Well, that was a complete bust and a waste of my time. Drove all the way up to Santa Barbara, and the guy ghosted me. I'm sick of this. I really am. Why can't shit just be easy? Why does it have to be so fucking difficult? I'm done with the difficult. I know I'm whining, but still, it's fucking annoying. I'm trying to make my way in the world, and people just keep making this shit fucking difficult. What the fuck? I still wanted to end this video on a happy note. That's not gonna happen. Well, on the plus side, I still have an iPad for sale, which I can still use. On the minus side, I still have an iPad for sale that I can still use. Now I'm in Santa Barbara. On the plus side, I did find a nice place to park last night, and hopefully it'll work out today. I'm going to take a walk outside my door in a little while and go bring you kitties along for the ride. But that's later. Alrighty, kitties. Thanks a bunch for watching. Appreciate the time, the patience, and your patronage. If you like this stuff, smash that like button down below. Definitely helps out the channel. While you're down there, hit the subscribe button for more content. And if you're feeling generous, hit that Patreon link down below for $1 a month for 30 days of video. Thanks a bunch for watching. Daily Miles. Bye.